Hello students. Today we are going to continue with the second part of A Gorilla in the Guest Room written by Gerard Durrell. In the previous session we had studied up till the thing that he wanted to keep a mate for Npongo in the cage so that Npongo does not feel alone. So now let's continue further. The sad and lonely anthropoids that I have seen in many zoos, including some that had ample resources for providing a mate, I thought the time had come to try to procure a wife for Npongo, even though I knew that our funds would probably not stretch that far. Because the author Durrell had always noticed that there are many of the anthropoids in many zoos in which the zoo owners have got enough resources to keep a mate for the apes, but they do not do so. But now Durrell had decided that he would keep a wife or he would keep a mate for Npongo, although he may not have enough funds to buy that another gorilla. I telephoned the dealer from whom we had gotten Npongo and asked him about the possibilities of obtaining a female gorilla. He told me he had been just offered one a year or so younger than Npongo, but now, owing to the political situation in Africa, the price had increased and he was asking £1,500. There followed 2 days of soul searching. I knew we could not afford that amount of money in a lump sum, but we might be able to do if it was spread over a period. Once again, I telephoned the dealer and asked him whether he would consider letting us have the animal in on installment terms. To his credit and to my relief, he agreed and said that his representative would bring her over to Jersey in a week's time. Now here because the author had decided to gain a female gorilla, so he talked to that same animal dealer from whom he had got this Npongo. And so he telephoned him and asked if he could procure a female gorilla for Npongo. And he said that he had been offered one a year younger than Npongo. And but due to the political situation in Africa at that time, the price had increased and it had become £1,500. Now here the author could not afford it to give it all at a time, so he called up the animal dealer and said if he could agree on installment terms. And to his surprise, the animal dealer had agreed and told him that in a week's time, that female gorilla would be brought to Jersey. The whole zoo waited for that day with bated breath. I, prompted by a slightly acrimonious conversation with my bank manager, spent the week by having a collecting box made over which hung the notice, "We have bought Nandy on the installment plan. Please help us to keep up the installments." So Nandy arrived, crouched in a crate that I would have considered small for a squirrel. She, like Npongo, appeared to be perfect condition. Her fur was glossy, she was fat, and her skin had a sheen like satin. But at first sight of her, it was her eyes that impressed me most. Npongo's eyes, as I have said, were small and deep set, calculating and full of humor. Nandy's eyes were large and lustrous, and when she looked sideways, she showed the whites of them. But they were frightened eyes that did not look at you squarely. They were the eyes of an animal that had little experience of human beings. But even that limited experience had given her no reason to trust or respect them. Now, here, the entire zoo team was waiting uh, breathlessly for that new member that would come. And this author had been trying to collect the funds. He had created a collecting box in which he could collect the money. He talked to the bank manager also. Then he had hung a board in the collecting box that we are trying to procure Nandy and on installment plan, if anybody of you can help us to keep up the installments. So in this way he was trying to collect the money. Now the day came when Nandy arrived in Jersey, and she was packed in a crate which was very small to even to accommodate a squirrel. He saw that Nandi was fat and she had a glossy skin, she had a sheen on her fur, but the eyes of her impressed him the most. Just like the eyes of N. Pongo were deep set and small, but here her eyes were big, and but they were having a frightened look because she had never been in the habit of staying with human beings. So seeing a human being was quite frightening for her, and that too for a short period when she visited all the human beings. Still, that fear did not go away. When we released her from her cage, I could see the reason right across the top of her skull was a scar which must have measured 6 or 7 inches in length. Obviously, when she was being caught, some over enthusiastic and intrepid human being had given her a blow with a machete which had split her scalp like a razor slash. It must have been a glancing blow, or her skull would have been split in two. With such an introduction to the human race, you could hardly blame Nandi for being a little antisocial. This grey slash was by now completely healed, and there was only the long white scar to be seen through the hair of her head, which reminded me of the curious, imitative, and quite unnecessary partings that so many Africans carve in their hair with the aid of a razor. Now, when he released Nandi from the cage and she came out of the cage, he could see a long white scar on her head. And here the author could assume that how that over ambitious or that cruel human being would have had put a scar on her head, or would had her attacked her with a machete. Means a small knife like weapon through which he had put a scar on her, and it would have been a very harsh blow on her head, but that missed her. Otherwise, her head would have been broken into two pieces. So that is why she was quite afraid of human beings. Now, here the author could make out that there was nothing to blame Nandi about that. That is why Nandi was antisocial and she could not mix with human beings very easily. Although the wound had been healed, but there was a long white scar still left on her head, and it reminded him of the Africans who keep their hair parted with the help of the partings which they make with the help of a razor on their head. We kept Nandi in a separate cage for 24 hours so that she could settle down. The cage was next to N. Pongo's to enable her to see her future husband, but she evinced as little interest in him as she evinced in us. If you tried to talk to her and look directly at her face, her eyes would slide from side to side, meeting yours only for a sufficient length of time to judge what your next action might be. Eventually deciding that wire between herself and us rendered us comparatively harmless, and preferring not to look at us, she did not turn her back. She did turn her back. She had such a woe-begone, frightened face that one longed to be able to pick her up and comfort her. But she had been too deeply hurt, and this was the last thing she would have appreciated. It would take us, I reckoned, roughly at least 6 months to gain her confidence, even with the example of pro-human N. Pongo. Now, here they had kept Nandi in a separate cage for 24 hours to observe her behavior. This cage was next to that of Nandi so that she could easily see her future husband. But she did not show any interest in N. Pongo, as well as the same way as she had no interest in seeing human beings. Whenever they used to talk to her, or they tried to talk to her and see directly in her face, she used to move her eyes from here to there and only looked a bit into your eyes in order to know what action you are going to take. Otherwise, she did not care for looking into the human beings. And as if it seemed she didn't have any interest of talking with human beings, so she turned her back towards them. And she had a woe-begone. Woe-begone means she had suffered a lot of sorrow at the hand of human beings, as the scar had told about the story of her, that she was quite frightened and had so many sadness, a lot of sadness in her heart, that the author could easily make out that it will take 6 months for them to help her recover from her sadness and from her grief, and then she could easily mix with them. The morning when we let her into the cage with Npongo was a red letter day, but fraught with anxiety. He had by now so well established and was such a fearfully extroverted character that he obviously considered he was the only gorilla in the world and all human beings were his friends. We did not know how he would react to Nandi's sullenness and anti-human attitude, although for 24 hours he could see her in the cage alongside him. He had shown absolutely no interest in her presence. Thus, when the great moment of introduction came, we stood by with buckets of water, brushes, nets, and long sticks just in case the engagement party did not come off with same romantic swing that one expects from reading women's magazines. When all was ready, we opened the shutters, and Nandi, looking thoroughly distrustful, sidled her way from the small cage into Npongo's comparatively palatial quarters. There she put her back to the wall and squatted her eyes, darting to and fro with a curiously suspicious yet belligerent expression on her face. Now that she was actually in the cage with Npongo, who was sitting up on a branch, watching her with the same expression of uninterested mistrust that he reserved for some new item of diet, we could see that she was very much smaller than he, in fact only about half his size. They sat steadily contemplating each other for some minutes while we, on the other side of the wire, did hasty checks to make sure that all our buckets of water and so on were easily accessible. Now, the next morning they had to move Nandi into the cage of Npongo. Although Npongo had been watching her for the last 24 hours through his cage, but he had no interest in her. He had grown so sturdy, so strong and extrovert in character that he considered himself to be the only gorilla in the world and the rest human beings as his friends. So he had no interest in seeing Nandi or whatever. Now the cage of Nandi was open and she had to move into the huge and palatial cage of Npongo. She moved there and she sat with her back on the wall. And these people of the zoo, they had prepared everything with themselves: buckets of water, nets, brushes, sticks, in case if the movement between Npongo and Nandi did not turn out to be romantic, they would do something in order to stop whatever the fight both of them would have. Now, when they moved inside, the Npongo had looked at her, but he did not show any interest. And for some time, both of them looked at each other, contemplating each other, but had no interest. And Npongo was busy in having his own diet. Now, when they noticed, the zookeepers noticed that she was very small than Npongo, just half of his size. Now, every time they all came to the wire in order to see that all their things that they have collected, the buckets, the nets, the brushes, sticks, all of them were ready with them and they can easily access. This was a crucial moment. The two gorillas and ourselves were frozen into immobility. To any spectator who did not know the circumstances, we would have appeared like one of the more bizarre of Madame Tussauds exhibits. Then Npongo stretched out a black hand with fingers like great sausages, clasped the wire, and rolled himself carefully to the ground. There he paused and examined a handful of sawdust as though it was the first time he had ever come across such a commodity. In a casual, swaggering manner, he sauntered in a semicircle which took him close to Nandi, and then, without looking at her, but with utmost speed, he reached out a long, powerful arm, gripped a handful of her hair, and pulled it, then hurried along the perimeter of the cage as though nothing had happened. Nandi by nature has always been, and I fear will always be, a little slow in uptake, and so Npongo was some 6 feet away before she realized what had happened. By then the baring of her teeth and her grunt of indignation were quite useless. Now here everything was quite silent, all of them sitting waiting for what is happening in the cage, and the two gorillas watching each other. if any newcomer would come, and then he would see that what is happening, why the people are sitting like this. But then they noticed that N Pongo had given a twist on the wire, just like taking a somersault, and then he caught hold of the sawdust and looked at it as if he is seeing it for the very first time. Then he took a semicircle and he somehow reached near Nandi. And without her knowing, he reached his big arms and he pulled her hair and then came back very quickly to the other side of the cage. And Nandi, according to the author, was quite slow in taking things. Before she could realize what has happened to her, till that time, N Pongo had reached 6 feet away from her. And now, when she was giving a grunt of anger or baring her teeth, all of them was useless. The first round therefore went to N Pongo, but before he could get exalted views of male superiority, I felt that we should bring up our second line of defense. We removed the buckets and nets and produced 2 large dishes full of succulent selection of fruits. One was presented to N Pongo and one to Nandi. There was one slight moment of tension when N Pongo, having examined his own plate, decided that possibly Nandi's contained additional delicacies which his lacked, and went off to investigate. Nandi, however, still smarting under the indignity of having had her hair pulled, greeted N Pongo's investigation of her plate with such a display of belligerence that N Pongo, being essentially a good humored and cowardly creature, retreated to his own pile of food. For the next half hour, they both fed contentedly at the opposite ends of the cage. Now, after looking at this action of N Pongo and Nandi, the author decided that we should remove the buckets of water and the wires, and they presented before both the gorillas their own plates having fruits. N Pongo, he noticed his own plate and the plate of Nandi, and he realized that Nandi's plate contained more delicacies than his own. So he went next to her in order to observe the food. Now Nandi was quite, you can say, angry, because what had happened, who pulled her hair, why did he pull her hair, she was quite angry with that. And so when he reached near to her, she gave a very angry look at him that he immediately moved to his own place, because he was good humored and a slightly coward fellow also. So he went back to his own place, and they both started having their own fruits. So for a few moments, that means half an hour, both of them were silent and having their own fruits. That night, N Pongo as usual slept on his wooden shelf, while Nandi, looking like a thwarted suffragette, curled up on the floor. Although the following day they had little jousts with each other to see who would occupy what position, they were working out their own protocol. Should Nandi be allowed to swing on the rope when N Pongo was sitting on the crossbeam? Should N Pongo be allowed to pinch Nandi's carrots, even though they were smaller than his own? It had the childishness of a general election, but was 3 times as interesting. However, by that evening, Nandi had achieved what amounted to votes for female gorillas, and both she and N Pongo shared the wooden shelf. Judging by the way N Pongo snuggled up to her, she was not at all averse to this invasion of his bedroom. Now that night, N Pongo, he usually used to sleep on the shelf at the top, and Nandi, she was quite, you can say, new to that cage. So she just found a place on the floor and she huddled up there and slept. Then all through the following day, the next day, what had happened, both of them were just trying to have a competition between each other. Both of them were just having, they were trying to run their own rules. That should Nandi swing on the rope if N Pongo is sitting? Should N Pongo take the carrots of Nandi, although the carrots of hers were much smaller than that of N Pongo? Then this type of childishness election was there in between them. That means somehow the other competition was there in their minds. So it was interesting to look at. So both of them were looking. However, by that evening, Nandi had achieved what amounted to votes for female gorillas. So Nandi had received more votes, and now both of them slept on the shelf at the top. Both of them shared the same bed, and judging by the way N Pongo snuggled up to her. And then the zookeepers, they noticed that N Pongo had taken much of the place of her, and he had just slept on top of her. Now, this was an averse situation, but she did not react to that averse situation. She knew that it was a bed of N